Thank you. Thank you for being in the room. I think when the weather is so nice outside, but I bet there are a lot of startups that want to hear why these investors from Copenhagen, from Istanbul and Munich made it over here. And really, at least one of them in this panel made it just for this panel. So it's really an honor for us to have these funds. And I'll give them a little bit of time to present themselves up to 1 minute. But okay, the main things in common. So they have investments in the Baltics. So Peter has 8 already, right?
Yes.
Oguzhan has 1, and Julian has 2 investments here in the Baltics. All of them are later stage, and I think it's very interesting to hear what they are finding here in the later stage, especially since yesterday we were speaking that pre-seed and seed is actually growing quite a lot. And I also asked them to learn 1 Lithuanian word to prove that they are into Baltics, because we're in Lithuania. So we'll start maybe from Peter, just a short introduction.
Yes, I'm Peter, and I'm apparently the boomer. Big surprise. I'm 6 years old. I was lucky to begin doing angel investments in the Baltics in 2016-17, and was introduced to the ecosystem and found it super attractive. I have done before that around 30 investments of my own money, but then I founded a secondary fund because founders all over, not only Baltic but Europe and Nordic, had the same pain in common, which is that if they are founder of a successful company, their money, they cannot capitalize on those gains they potentially have. Of course, they can ask their co-founders, but they are typically also not super well financially off until the sale. And so therefore, I got the idea together with my partner to do secondaries, and we have taken that category. We have raised 2 funds in the past 3 years, 140 million euros. And
how much?
The first fund was 50, the second one is 92 million euros.
Super.
And for that we're deploying, but that was 58 seconds.
Yeah, 58 seconds. Nicely done. So I think just to mention a couple of investments, and especially for those that are from here. So Kilo Health, TransferGo, these are the secondaries Peter has done. Anyone who's interested to do the secondaries, you'll know the guy. Oguzhan?
So hey everyone, this is Oguzhan from Earlybird Digital East Fund. We are a 200 million euro fund investing in tech startups with global ambitions, but having roots in the Central and Eastern Europe region. So far, we have been lucky to be investors in like some of the, I think, the large success stories emerging from this region, including UiPath from Romania, Payhawk from Bulgaria, and Peak and Trendyol from Turkey, and looking to do more, especially, I think, in the Baltics.
Yeah, I think for us, whenever someone says they are scouting in the Baltics and then mention companies from the Balkans, we're like, no. That's very different. And I know that you're aware of that, but even scouting and like team fund-wise, they're quite different. But I forgot to ask, what's the word that you've learned?
Oh, I chose the easy one, labas.
Labas, yeah. And Peter?
Achoo.
Achoo. Okay, that's the easy one. Okay, Julian?
I chose Sveiki Visek.
Did you hear that?
I'm Julian. I'm Managing Director Europe at Burda Principal Investments. We are a early growth venture capital firm investing all over Europe, in the US and Southeast Asia, out of also local offices that we have there. We do this, we invest as of Series B typically, so when a company is really ready to scale, when they've build up a company, have a product market fit, and it's about to go really to new markets and do more of the same. And we've been quite connected to the Baltics since our investment in Vinted. We led the Series B round back in 2015, and since then, obviously, have been around quite a bit. These days in Lithuania, I invest in Nord Security and in Vinted, and it's always good to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming. So we have pretty big names as funds and also big investments where I think it's really the stars of our ecosystem that you have invested in. So majority of our local funds are not in there. So I'm very happy for you. But okay, let's start from, so you are investing in Baltics. A lot of funds are claiming to invest in Baltics. I've seen so many of them. They haven't even stepped into Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia. So maybe Julian, let's start from you. When was the first time you visited Lithuania or any of the Baltic countries? And how many times have you visited these countries afterwards? Real in numbers, just numbers.
Okay. I went here very early because as a teenager I visited, I think, all 3 countries. I went to a bachelor party in Riga. Professionally, I try to be here every year 3 times to each main conference, and typically I'm here 3 to 4 times a year. So I've been here probably 12, 13, 14 times.
Nice. Oguzhan?
For me personally, the 2 months ago in Tallinn was my first time to the Baltics, and this is my first time in Lithuania. But I think, especially with our fresh fund that we just raised, I think you'll be seeing more people from our team, maybe me or someone else, but yeah.
Okay. What about the boomers?
Yes, unfortunately, I missed the bachelor party. I wasn't invited. So my first trip was in Tallinn in 2017, and because you asked prior to this event, I calculated yesterday. I've been here 36 times in the Baltics,
Wow.
and but it's the first time I'm in Vilnius with such a weather like this. Usually I come here in the autumn, but a bit. So yes, and we have. You also asked, about the numbers we have done in the first fund. We invested around 32% of the fund in the Baltic companies, around 17, 18 million euros. And in the second fund for which we deploy now, we have already invested 20 million euros. So, and that is actually 49%, and 40% of the investments done so far is actually Lithuania by Kilo Health and TransferGo. And we believe that Lithuania is narrowing the gap rapidly to Estonia, which is very impressive, but also super important because you need, of course, even more role models. And before on stage earlier today, both Darmantas from TransferGo and David of GVK. There are so many great founders. Hopefully can inspire many of the early startups sitting here also to copy their track and work hard to go
do
in
the
their
secondaries
footsteps.
soon enough. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's a very good lead up to the question that I had afterwards is how much of your fund, do you have some specific dedication that you will be investing in the Baltics?
We don't have, you can say basically there are no limit, but I would have assumed as the first fund was about a third of it, given the deal flow we see currently, which is extremely strong, especially in Lithuania and Estonia, and then Sweden, I would say, I would be surprised if Baltic was at least 50% of the fund because of the opportunities here. And of course, also when you look at the traction on the unicorns per capita and all the numbers, you always love to hear about it in the Baltic when you compare. But there are, the challenge is huge, but I would say, to my best belief, it will be around 40-50%.
40-50. And what about for Earlybird Digital?
So we don't have any specific percent target per se, but similarly, I think given the quality of the deal flow we see from the Baltics, I would expect also a meaningful part of our 200 million fund might be invested in Baltics as well.
Okay.
We don't have a fixed number, so we invest in everything we like, and this can be 10 startups, but it can be also 0. We just do anything that we like, but nothing else. And I guess starting at Series B, that's when we invest. If you look at the numbers, in the entire Baltics, you got I don't know, 6-7 Series B per year overall. So the likelihood that there's one that really falls into our criteria is super low.
It's true.
Would be great to have more of those, but still.
Yeah. So the 2 shots you made, that's already quite a lot then.
Absolutely. But I'm looking for the third unicorn. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
I think they're around somewhere.
Exactly.
Actually. Okay, but whom are the Baltic companies then competing for your attention? And you personally, for example, Julian, you scout here, but you also are looking in Nordics, Germany, I don't know.
Well, I'm MD for Europe, so I better make my job and look everywhere.
Everywhere, okay.
But personally, I focus a lot actually on the Baltics and Germany. In Germany, although we are a German-based fund, until 2021 we didn't invest into Germany.
Okay.
Everywhere else but Germany. So we changed that, and that's why I'm focusing a lot on that market. We've done 6 investments since then in Germany.
Yeah.
But I really like being here.
Okay, so we are competing then. Julian's attention is across Europe, so that's what we're competing with. And what about you?
So for us, our whole fund is kind of focused on what we call emerging Europe, essentially.
Oh no, but I think personally, you're
so
here.
I was coming there, but also personally, I think we are quite kind of opportunistic and don't really differentiate in terms of location. Okay. Just looking for kind of the best opportunities wherever they are and trying to find them.
So that's the eastern part of the Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Peter?
Well, we are a bit more focused, I would say, or we have a knowledge that we have an extremely strong network, of course, in the Nordic and the Baltics. So the first one was purely either companies located, having headquarters here, or founders from this region. And our second fund, from where we are deploying money now, we can do 10% outside the region. And we have actually very good conversations with both very strong German companies, Austrian companies, French companies, even one Polish, and I'm pretty sure we will be doing also the things. But the thing is, you would assume, having done secondaries, which is another discipline than doing early venture, you would having done more than 200 diligences and 35 deals, whatever, you would be faster and faster. It's actually it goes the other way around because you are aware of more and more risk, and of course the whole change of the environment and the higher interest rates and all the alternatives. So there's so many things to look into. But saying this, we are pretty confident that we will be looking at things. And of course, if you guys have interesting secondary opportunities, as long as our criteria is they must be post-Series A, having raised 10, 20 million and a valuation of minimum 30, 40 million, because we are minority investor, only do up to 10%, and our minimum ticket is 2 million. So
okay.
That was a long answer to a short question, sorry.
No, but then I understand. So basically, we are competing for your attention with almost the whole Europe, or like that's what we're trying to cover. So you're not only traveling 3 times to Baltics and then back to Istanbul, Munich, or Copenhagen.
And then go asleep for the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one Series B in 3 years. That's fine. But okay, maybe Julian, you can tell a little bit more. So you have Vinted and Nordic Security. I understand that you were quite involved in Nordic Security deal. Maybe you can shortly tell how did you find it, what was the path to it, and what was the decision-making process?
Well, I think Nordic Security was actually an example of how a perfect world works for us, because 2 years before, we had actually decided to focus on cybersecurity. And we did 2 things. We invested in 3 cybersecurity-focused funds. So we do also fund-of-fund investments for pipeline and purposes to get basically exposure to the market. And we did basically meet every company out there. That was the second thing that we did. And so, Nord was one of the companies in the list that fell really into our criteria. And then they kind of started, to raise, and we were, and the good thing is if you really get, expertise beforehand, then you really know which company you want. And, we had basically an advantage of knowing our shit. And that's how we entered it. Why do we like it? Our claim is we invest in exceptional founders that are building global category leaders. And Nord is just that. I don't know who has met Tom, the founder. I mean, he's really exceptional. So he's one of those, 0.05% of the founders that you meet out there. He built the company to a 300 million company himself without any funding until we came. And then obviously, they are a global play and a market leader. Yeah.
But that was probably a very competitive deal, or no?
It was, and that's why also our expertise and showing him that we are basically also adding value in terms of, let's say, the topics that he needs afterwards. That was basically part of obviously also, I guess, his decision. Yeah.
Super. Zan, you have one investment here with Earlybird is digital. Was it more accident, or was that active scouting and you were like, we need this Baltic investment or something?
It was a result of active scouting, but not necessarily looking for a Baltic investment, but I think we were more actively looking at the cybersecurity space at the time.
Yeah.
And then I think, we aspire to invest in category first creators and then winners. And I think in Binalize, we have a very strong, exceptional founder with a great product that was at the time yet to be kind of being adapted in their respective markets. But we kind of through our process, we realized that this could be one of the new things upcoming in the cybersecurity space. And obviously the founder was kind of the type of person who knew what they were building and what they were shooting for. So, yeah.
Super. And Peter, you're are investing almost 50% now of your fund in the Baltics. Did you set up the fund with this strategy, or that's accidental?
Well, there's no such thing as accident, I believe. when you see opportunities like this, even though I promised my wife that when I sold my second company like 10 years ago, I would never be working as much again, until I saw this opportunity on secondaries.
Yeah.
And when I spoke to smart people in the region, many of the VCs from Estonia and Finland, they invested in our fund, and some of the smartest private equity founders in Sweden and Denmark. So that was a good way to check if the idea we had actually also gave meaning for people even with far more experience in private equity and venture than we had. So yes, it was obvious to do it simply because provide the liquidity for the founders, but also allowing successful entrepreneurs like myself and others to deploy my capital in the companies. Our first deal was in Klarna in December 19. At that time, it was $4 billion. That's expensive, but they would want to IPO the company in a year, they said. So we invested, and then it went crazy. We sold 16 months later, 5.5x higher, and now it's down 90%. So we were very, very lucky. And of course, it tends also to be the harder you work and the more people you talk to, the luckier you also get.
That's a good promotion for your fund.
Hopefully.
Okay, I'll ask each of you to name one anti-portfolio case. So something that you've completely missed and there's no way back, probably. I don't know.
Sorry, could you please repeat?
Anti-portfolio case. So something you've missed to invest. And now,
Missed?
Yeah. I know for you it's difficult because you're a
have
secondary
many.
fund. Maybe I'll ask Earlybird or Julian.
Well, you just mentioned Klarna. We could have invested in Klarna at I think 200 million valuation.
Yeah.
We didn't.
But from the Baltics?
From the Baltics, I guess both. And we've just in Lithuania we've got a good really track record. In Estonia we have not. So both, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
When I think about it, I think especially when you say Baltics, I would say Bolt has been the one. We looked at it at the very early stage. And I think, sometimes the more familiar you are with something, the more you see and feel the difficulties and the problems in it.
Yeah.
And I think our experience in some of the local and regional, more operational type of model champions that we have invested, but also have seen the problems with, kind of stopped us from, maybe among other things, but making that investment decision. So I would probably name that one.
Okay, so now maybe let's get also quite practical. There are people probably waiting to catch you after you get off the stage and speak to you. So maybe something, Julian, that you would say a company needs to have that, it might sound bad, but you start talking to them. So when it's too early or when they should actually start getting to know you?
I think stage is definitely a key factor because, it's not many that make it really to my stage. And I guess when it's time, before Series A, when they're about to start raising a Series A, I think it's a good time to connect with us. We like to be actually in contact for quite some time, getting to know them. Sometimes we actually pass the Series A, but then invest in the Series B. I have a few in my mind that we did the same in Lithuania. I guess it's kind of the good time.
Yeah. Okay. Any pre-Series A companies? So go to Julian. Ozer?
For us, we are quite flexible in terms of stage. We have pre-seed investments as
Be
well.
Be careful; they will come your way.
Be careful.
Yeah, they're welcome. We have Series B investments as well as first checks. So that's not really something we have a hard criteria for sure.
Peter?
Yes, well, 5 years ago when we started doing our fund, at that time we had a category saying if a company had raised €1 million, that was a Series A. Now it's slightly bigger. So I said we typically start talking to the companies when they have raised minimum 3 to 5 million, but then because like you said, we are talking to them for some years to follow them, of course, but as we are also only buying from existing founders and we can maximum buy 10% of the company, they need to have a post-money valuation of around 25-30 million, otherwise it doesn't make sense to us. We don't put a price tag on the company, we simply invest at on average 25% discount to the last valuation they've done, of course due to liquidity and credit risk, and that is our way we provide the liquidity, but so they need to be at a certain level. But sometimes we know that things can go very fast.
Yeah.
We did an investment together 4 years ago. We put in 400K in a company of a few million, and now a year ago they raised more than 50 million. So we know things can go luckily very good, but it can of course also be more challenging with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope the crowd caught like what kind of, what's the cap and the maturity and what you were mentioning, but I'm pretty sure you can speak one-on-one with those that are interested. And anything else that you would say besides the stage that really matters? So obviously by that time, I guess when you are all investing, they are not local, they're quite international. Anything else?
Yes, we would say what's also super important for us is that we very much have very good relation with local VCs like here. Working with Practica and Iron Wolf and Contranian and also in the other countries like Specialist VC and Trend Ventures, because we are not a competitor to the VCs. We are actually in between the VCs and the private equity, and also especially now when the exit market has been again hardly challenged. You see from P2 data that the IPO number of deals has fallen 70% quarter to quarter from 22 to 23, and also at the same time multiples are down. So instead of forcing a sale in a great company now, the smart VCs and LPs understand the value of allowing the founder to take a little bit off the table, maybe a few million euros, and then building a company and trying to exit at a later stage when things are more valuable. And again, for the founder, if they, whether they have 17 or 16%, if the company goes very big, means a lot. So for us, it's a blue ocean doing secondaries, and we love what we're doing. And if you know anybody who have secondaries in a great company, you're always welcome to ping me.
Super. So you've mentioned that funds are a big source of leads. What about you two? How, for example, did you come across Nordic Security? Was it the kind of your cybersecurity research, or was it introduction from someone?
So I would say 80% of our deal flow comes from really network. So other VCs. Just because they are a great filter, right? So not in terms of filter and for getting in touch, but let's say, the companies that have made it into Series A or seed and Series A in the Baltics, they've gone through a lot of competition, and I think here especially because the number of early stage investors is lower, but those that have made it, they are just of high quality, and so I think. That's the best funnel, I would say. Asking the question on Nord, it was actually an advisor, so they engaged an advisor.
Okay.
That's rather a rare case, I think, for us, because that stage is still not so advisor focused. On the other hand, Nord is really a big company. In that case, it was an advisor, and it was kind of like that, coincidence that we had actually already prepared ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think VCs is really the go-to.
Okay, and Oguzhan, how is it for you?
So for us, it's a mix of everything, essentially. We have a lot of active kind of scouting and research activity within the team, but also I think pre-seed and seed funds and angel investors, especially in the local ecosystems, who I think we've gotten to know, and also maybe through working together at the board of another company, or just getting to know each other, that in a way we left a good impression. I think those are probably among the kind of the best channels that we.
And maybe just to add, sorry, do you want?
No, please.
Maybe just to add, the beauty of our stage is that there's the previous rounds, seed and Series A, and those are typically announced. I mean, these days not so much anymore, but typically they have been announced, and so it was a lot on us to actually just screen the market, look out for rounds, and then basically through venture capital networks going to connect them. And that's, I guess, I would say always the beauty for our stage.
Yeah, that's very true. Peter.
But we are also privileged by having in our second fund 225 LPs, which are mainly entrepreneurs. Among those, 15 of them are founders from whom we bought secondaries in our first fund. So we have many angel investors from mainly Denmark, but also from the other Nordic Baltic countries. And that is a big advantage because, one, they bring a lot of their best deals potentially, because then they have a part of the cake themselves, they're part of the business. And also we use it when we do our due diligences, because we have so many of our investors who have done either cyber, e-commerce. We have always smart people around, which is very good, because the older you get, the more aware you get that there's very little you know a lot about.
Yeah.
When you are 30, you think you know everything, which very few does. So having a broad investor base like we do, we don't have institutional. It gives us many advantages in this space, especially.
Yeah, that's true. So I think, LP's base, and also I think you've heard that probably you have to have good relationship with local VCs, and then we'll be, pushing it your way. But obviously, when the stage is that late, it's quite easy to sort out. It's not that difficult to find all the Series A deals in the Baltics this year. So I think that's pretty obvious. Anything that you will ask a startup founder to do after you invest in the company?
That's a great question. We would never do that.
You would never do that? You would never.
Like if there's something that we want to change in the company, we would not invest in the first place. So there's also those funds that, for instance, have also, I don't know, like marketing or HR departments themselves to help the startups afterwards. We would also not do that at all, ever. Why? Because we believe that we want to invest in those 0.5% of those founders like Tom that I mentioned before. Those guys don't need any help in terms of recruiting or marketing. And so this is kind of how we think about it. And we would not want to change anything, otherwise we wouldn't invest.
Yeah, that's true. It's like getting married and then changing everything for the person. Anything from your side?
Yes.
No.
I would say what's super important is also in general, what I have invested after that. Basically, I believe that no matter how promising things are, as a person, I only invest in people I like. I also only like to have investors who I like, because life is too short to work with assholes. That's my period. So if you can choose, no matter how good a slide deck or whatever, if you really don't have trust in the belief that person is worth having a cup of coffee, don't spend your time. It's also super important for a startup not to be trigger. Find the right investors, find the right local angel, find the right local VCs, and then you can, because it's so important and it means a lot and it changes a lot. So I think and I said, if we don't like the founders, we will never buy the same, because we are not even active. We are more like sitting in the back. We used to have a picture being with the unknown nephew Warren Buffett in the Nordic, having a big wallet and buying shares, but only if the management team is strong, if the current cap table is strong, because we will not be participating in the B, C, or D round, because we are minorities. We can buy secondaries after the next round, which we have done a number of times, but it's essential for us that we only want to go in, hopefully, in the companies that are on the right track, where we can, instead of the venture, which I will not say play and spray, but you have to, that no matter how good you are at your work, 5 or 10% will pay we hope by investing at a later stage, more mature companies. Of course, we will miss the X100 probably, but we will hopefully have the fewer which doesn't make it to a certain level.
Ozan, anything that you ask?
So essentially, similarly, like we wouldn't invest if we were to ask something major or fundamental to be changed right after at all. But maybe I think it might also be kind of like a bit related to the fact that we invest a bit earlier than those funds. Is that I actually think, so we have our kind of like a 3-person talent team in-house, and we've seen, I think, time and time again, the fact that like regardless of your vertical, of the sector of the company, one of the most common and probably the biggest challenge in a VC-backed journey has been to scale the organization.
Yes.
And going at the early stage, while we obviously believe that our founders can learn that and do that, it is, especially in investing in the kind of like Central and Eastern Europe region, I think it's also a common kind of like theme that our founders are super strong product and tech people who have less experience in sales and marketing. And then that's where actually that team started 6 years ago, how we built it. And I think we've seen a lot of like benefits provided to our founders. And in the sense that, as I said, like we believe our founders will learn and obviously manage that organization themselves. But I think any time that we can leverage them on that journey, any value we can provide on that journey is, we've seen it quite helpful. So that's just one thing that we do differently.
So that's more than support rather than intervening. Okay, so there is then probably a myth that you need to change headquarters or move the whole team from the Baltics, because some investors are a bit wary of where we are located. So none of you are. No.
Not at all.
Okay. Yeah, we're well equipped. We're well prepared. So since we're nearing the end, and I think it's just enough to a little bit wrap it up. And I've mentioned that I think this room, like I can't really see who is in the room, but I assume there's a lot of early stage startups, people who are involved in the tech ecosystem. Is there anything that they should come to you today, find you, and what would you advise them how to kind of catch your attention and at what point? Anyone?
Peter.
Well,
should they come to you?
Well, maybe I'm the less interesting guy for the very early companies. Of course, I'm always happy if people want to have introductions to companies or people in the Nordic region. I'm always happy to help. I still have a few spaces on my LinkedIn. You can always write me there. I'm pretty visible there. That's probably the easiest way, so I'm glad to do so. But also happy if you're searching for VCs with interest in verticals outside the one you maybe are looking at. But I think you're privileged by having very strong local VCs in the Baltics and who have had many successes. So, talk to them and find the right one for you. And I also know that both Leadband is doing extremely well. When I met Leadband first time, it was like 40 businesses. Now they have more than 300. So it's very impressive to see how that ecosystem is. And I think it is very important that the angel environment can grow all together with the VCs, because the combination will help the startups a lot. So
thanks for the compliment, but it means then that they will all be coming to us, not to you. But that's fine. That's fine. We are excited about this pipeline. Ozan?
I mean, one thing I think I maybe previously told some people I spoke to as well. I think it's important. I think before approaching VCs, I think it's important to kind of identify and decide what kind of a journey you are looking for and what kind of an ultimate picture you have in mind for your company, and looking at it I think realistically as well. And I think approaching the right sized VC with the right focus, I think is also dependent on that. And I think that can save a lot of time when fundraising, but also after the fundraising as well, to find the right match for a startup.
Okay, Julian, you've mentioned you're looking Series A, Series B. You know all of those companies that are like that. And any reason people should come to you today?
Look, I think if you have, let's say, a pitch and think that I could be a good partner and that the stage fits well, please get in touch with me. And I always try to answer. It might take a bit of time, but I think do a message, send me a message every time. I can just advise the same what Peter said. There's great local VCs, which I think typically if you're earlier, at my stage maybe not, but if you're earlier, really use their expertise. I've seen really 5 cases at least that made it to Series A, and I would say mostly just because of, let's say, the support of entrepreneurs, of the Vinted founder who really puts a lot of time into it. You guys, Practica. So I think really use that ecosystem, because these guys help you, and they will help you to get at some point to the stage where it's relevant for us. Yeah.
Well, that was very good conversation for me personally then, but thanks a lot. So I think you can see your ačiū or something, labas, in Lithuanian now for the crowd, and then we are done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.